Good evening, everybody, and welcome to King Dolphin Television. I am Raymond. I am the author of the Dolphin Wars trilogy of books and ruler of the greatest pod on YouTube. I would like to welcome you to episode 412, the um, the ha- the Halloween-ish issue of Fantastic Four reviews. I decided to I I had a I pulled a mini series up, and it's a mini series about the Thing, and yes, Snorter Poopers, R.I.P. Clobby. So, and I picked this month to do this because it's got a spooky, scary, Halloweeny type of feel. So I figured this would be a great month to do this mini series. So it is called The Thing, the Next Big Thing. We'll see how far we can get in it. I may have to do a part two at some point this month, but we'll see what we do. I'd like to welcome all my friends, all my chatters. Before we get going, as usual, please, if you love everything that King Dolphin Television has to offer, everybody, um, Just Cause, Radio King Dolphin TV, Fantastic Four reviews, Deep Space Nine stuff, and all the guests that we'd like to have. And of course, Just Cause, please like, subscribe, chat, engage, question, and if you are so inclined, please make sure that Dr. Raymond Boom doesn't send Snorty and Trike to collect his money. Pay in super chats, super stickers, or the tip link here. And we actually got it up, Snort. Thanks. There's the tip link. So please help keep the lights on in this wonderful community that we have here, and help us out via the various modes that we have. So without any further ado, let's see who's here. We don't have any guest chatter or guests yet, so it's strictly our lifeguard corps. So we have our producer, Sandra. Remember, this is King Dolphin TV in color, stereo where available. A Sandra Feliciano production. We got the dog Trike, who is currently snoring his head off. We have the Tipmeister, FK, or the Pitmeister, FKHC 2005. And we've got the wonderful, witty, look at us, Legion Eye. And actually, let's see. And of course, the biggest, the baddest, the hardest working bear in the universe. Snorter Poopas! Q-Bar. Looking thingy, Snort. Looking thingy. Let's see. You can't use its clobbering time, so I guess you got to use its squishing. It's bear hug time. Yeah, it's bear hug time. All right, so. Okay. And let's see. Tim has got some memes to start the evening off. He says, I ain't Ben anymore. I ain't Ben anymore. I'm what Susan called me, the Thing. And I'll call myself Mr. Fantastic. Fantastic Four established a lot of canon, but but perhaps none so firmly as Reed Richards' inability to read a room. And then you've got Fantastic Four, you got Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then you got Fan Stick. I love that one. Yeah, that was kind of lame. I couldn't even make it past the first 5 minutes of Fan Stick. That was so stupid. It's 2005. They're releasing a Fantastic Four film. It's 2015. They are releasing a Fantastic Four film. And it is 2025. They are releasing a Fantastic Four film. And this is exactly what I thought of when Doom appeared in Fantastic Four 2005. Awesome. Awesome, my friend Tim. Awesome. All right, so let us. Snort says, remember when a bear offers to hug you, it's not a sign of affection. Yeah, we know. Words to live by. All right. Okay. So, anything. No, it's not going to be another Invisible Stream. I did like that miniseries. Sue Storm, Super Spy. That was a pretty good story. All right. Okay, so let us begin. Now, there may be, if we go from issue to issue, there may be some delays because Kindle doesn't let me do this in a cycle. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. You know how Gumby is. All right. So we shall begin. But first, I want to bring up. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Come on, Raymond. All right, there it is. No, come on. Where is it? Hey, don't start with me. Okay. Let's do a cancel. Okay, there it is. All right. This is the Thing miniseries. And it's called The Next Big Thing. Written by Walter Mosley, drawn by Tom Riley, and color by Jordi Belair. And we have heard of Walter Mosley. He is born in 1952. He's an American novelist, noted by his crime fiction. So he has done many stories. Where I first heard about him was the Star Trek controversy, where he was fired from the writer's room for some thing he said. So, and this is a good story. This really is. So And again, it's got a Halloweeny theme to it. So, pilot Ben Graham joined his friends, Reed Richards, Susan Storm, and Johnny Storm, on a fateful mission to outer space. When they were bombarded by cosmic rays, they gained incredible powers, but he became a rock-skinned monster. Now Ben is the super strong, ever-loving, blue-eyed member of the Fantastic Four, known as the Thing. All right, here we go. All right, so this is in the classic era. And as you can see, in Brooklyn, New York, years ago, there's a creepy ghosty thing walking through Brooklyn. He goes past the various slum areas of the town, and a little boy looks at him. And he looks kind of scared. And then he approaches a couple who are kissing. The guy tries to use a switchblade to get him away from her and is immediately tossed into a car. And then he crashes into a door. The boy, who should know better, follows the spook into a room of a rather brutish-looking guy in front of a poster. And he's over there saying, "What, are you a Halloween fool? Are you some kind of Halloween fool?" And then he shows his obsession by saying that this Amaryllis du jour is his. And so he's got an obsession. And next thing you know, he's knocked down onto the ground. The creature reaches in and pulls out his heart. That's something you see every day. And it's still beating. And then he turns it black and shoves it back into his chest. Yeah, this is going to be a scary story. And he says, "What do you want?" And the ghost says, "The one I serve has asked me to give you this." And it's a little vial of white energy. Next, we're at the Baxter Building when Ben comes back from fishing. He was at South America and he got sea bass and lobster. And look at him. He's just all fish guy. And there's no one in the Baxter Building. And Reed does a hologram message, and he tells Ben that Reed and Sue are in Moscow, and Johnny's at a car rally. And Ben's over there going, He's already grumping. And there's Willie, who gives him messages saying, "Neither snore, nor rain, nor heat, nor Dr. Doom will keep him down," and hands him some messages. He tries to call Alicia, and Alicia's away. And so Ben's over there saying he'll see her tomorrow. Well, and of course, in Ben's things don't go necessarily as they should, because now it's tomorrow, and he sees Alicia with her arms around a dashing Mr. Vasquez. And she says, "I'm so glad you brought me to the gallery. It was wonderful. People, art, and the spoken descriptions brought the exhibits alive for the blind." And he is going to show her works that blind people can touch. And And Alicia's introducing him to Ben, and also he's showing some jealousy. She says, "I'm happy you're here. This is Alejandro. Showed me his gallery in Puerto Rico." And Ben's saying, "You could hardly wait to run off with him." And then she's saying, "You were gone and didn't have a phone." And Ben's saying, "You want to have a few days so I want to have a few days alone and you get a new boyfriend." And Alicia loses it. She says, "I can't walk down the street with a friend without being called a trollop." And now they're having a fight. And there's Spooky Guy. And he shoots Ben with a pepper spray in the eyes. And Ben recoils the only way he can by tossing the car into other cars. And then just then, and so swarthy guy takes Alicia away, and then the police come and arrest him and knock him out. And then he wakes up into a cell with Hercules. And he says, "Hercules, am I dreaming?" And Hercules says, "Not unless you dream of prisons." So they're stuck in a room with kind of shimmering things. And Ben says that he had some bad luck. And he tries punching the wall, and he bounces to the other side. And Hercules says that the chamber is made of synthetic vibranium, that Thor's hammer can't tear it. And he asks Hercules, why is he there? He says he can't recall, but there was a maiden, some absinthe, and the girl took his money, and so he got drugged, and in the process knocked down a building. And then Ben asked Kirk to reach a little splinter up there that just suddenly happened to appear. And then Brute guy comes out with a couple of tires and that glowy thing. And someone asks what happened to the door, and he just ignores them and walks, calling himself Brusque. And there is the kid. And he walks. So Ben is trying to pull off that little shard. He got it. And he's asked by Hercules, asked him, what is he doing with that? And Ben says that Reed told him that the only thing that can beat vibranium is more vibranium. And meanwhile, there's the little ghosty guy head that is hovering over Ben's head. And Hercules thinks he's cursed. And Ben says, yeah, it's been that type of day. He says, so that's it. I knew something was wrong when I crawled out of bed this morning. But Hercules says that there is something evil above his head. And Ben rubs his hands around the vibranium shard, causing a massive sound wave, and next thing you know, the chamber explodes. The guards came and saw that the chamber was bursted open, and he says, Hercule was telling me these walls were stronger than Thor's hammer, so I thumped them, and next thing, all hell broke loose. So they're already going to put him in a cell that Hulk can't break. And then Reed, just in time, appears with release papers to take Ben back for house arrest. And they're going to offer Hercules a ride, and Herc says, be careful. He says, no, Reed Richards, but you need to look closer at your friend. An evil spirit stalks his very soul. Reed suggests that they go to Dr. Strange, and says Hercules has powers that are sensitive to the occult. And Ben says, let's go. He told me he was with a girl, drank some absinthe, and lucky he didn't see two of me and die of fright. So he wants to go home. They go back to the Baxter building. Reed's saying that he would have gotten him out, but Ben thought he was over at the USSR selling secrets, but Reed corrects him. It's Russia. And he explains that the guy sprayed a strong pepper spray in his eyes, and he hit the car. And Reed reveals that Alicia called him. And he heads back to Russia, and Ben just sulks. And Reed's worried about him. Ben wanders through the building to a special vault and puts the vibranium in it. Man, that's pretty cool. You see all the cool layout of the Baxter building. Even man-eating or bug-eating plants. He goes to his room, looks at a sculpture of himself, and Alicia says, "Are you looking at the sculpture again?" And he says, "It's the only statue on Earth made from a meteor." Alicia says, "Don't touch him." And Al says, "We need to take a break from each other to see other people, to imagine different lives for themselves." Ben says, "I don't want a life without you." And she left the ring he gave her on the night table and then leaves. And now Ben is even more grumpy. And then he grabbed a shower and coming back, and then a little pixie comes out of one of the envelopes. Her name is Calixte, and she is the avatar of Elysium Courtship Dancers. And what she is offering a free month of the service so that they can prove they can find anyone the perfect mate. And Ben says, "Why me?" She says, "Yeah, you're the perfect study. You're powerful, wealthy, and frightening. And if they find getting him to accept they found the perfect mate would be the pinnacle of success." And Ben says, "No, he's going to bed." And then he's in a dream. And there's a lot of dead bodies all over the place. And then something speaks to him. And you see in the background all the superheroes unalived. You see a Celestial. You see Eternity. You see Galactus. All have been pretty much deleted. And it's Spooky Guy. His true name can't be spoken by living tongues, but he is called Mott, M-O-T. And he says, "What's happened here is happening always among your kind, death and decay." So Ben gets mad and punches this Mott guy. And Mott comes back and knocks the thing onto the ground and pulls out his heart. and turns it black and then shoves it into the thing. And then he wakes up. And Calixte comes back and says, is he ready? And he says, so what are most people looking for? And she says, tell her what he wants and I'll translate it into the system. And then he starts giving her his statistics. Height and weight, 6'6", 432 pounds. Race, he looks and he says non-white. Education, and I love this part. Ben Grimm, despite his gruff exterior, is no dummy. He has master's degrees in mechanical engineering, aviation, and chemistry. So he is definitely no dummy. And there's a picture of him, a graduation picture of him. And asks the goals. He wants somebody to talk to. He wants to talk to a woman over 38. And his best quality is he never gives up. And the worst characteristic, I never give up and I have a bad temper. And so the little fairy disappears. He goes back to sleep. And then he's got a video mail from the dancers. And he meets for the first time Armelius de Jour, also known as Mary. And the dancers said that he was looking for a friend. And she knows who he is, and that she's a choreographic clothes dancer working virtually. And she needs a friend because people are either jealous or competitive and just wants to have a cup of tea and conversation, and offers to meet at Radio City. So the ever-loving, the idol of millions actually shows up. Old Blue Eyes. And he says the dancing is all over the place, but looks beautiful. And then she comes over to introduce herself. He tells her he likes the show and that she's got beautiful eyes. He is such a charmer. And then all of a sudden, brute guy with the tires comes crashing into the building. To be continued. All right. Let me bring up the next one. And let's see what the chat is saying. Okay. Legata says maybe a girl bear, but if a bear girl wants to hug you, I'm not telling you to say no. Hello, Crouching Taylor. Hidden Swift, how you doing? All right. Okay. All right. Oh, Tim. If Ben becomes dumb, does that make him rock stupid? Mary, don't you know me? I don't do a Jimmy Stewart. I don't have the ability to do imitations. All right. So let me bring up the next one. It's going to take a minute because my Kindle is stubborn. Library. It's easier to do it off the. It's easier to do it off the. Okay. I know, I try, but I can't tell Kindle to go any faster. All right, let's see. Where are you? Where are you? Woof. Oh, come on. All right, there it goes. It's not that one. Oh, man, Kindle. There, finally. All right. Oh, come on. Boy, Gumby's really getting stupid on me. Hold on. Yeah, he's outside too. Trike is outside, FK. All right. Oh, come on. Okay, let me try this. Close that one out. Close. Yes. Yes, that's Gumby. All right. There it goes. All right. There we go. Issue 2 of the next big thing. All right. We see that we won't go through the recap. Let's just get into the action. So, Brute Boy, or Brusque, or whatever he calls himself, hits him with tires, saying, "Get away from her, thing." And he keeps bonking her. He keeps punching him, and he's saying, "I'm going to give you some bruises." And of course, he's saying, "Die," and he's just totally ignoring it. And he he gives him a pow. Knocks him into a wall. And just as he's ready to punch, he uses some kind of voodoo that you do. And it blinds the thing, and the thing's arm becomes numb all the way to the shoulder. And he brusque grabs Mary and starts dragging him. And he starts saying, "Not in my Aunt Petunia's grave," and hits him. And then he uses the little vial to wonk him on the head, telling him to die. And she grabs the vial and tries using it on him, and it can't hurt him. So he drags her away. Ben cannot move. Next thing, he's under a cover. And the kid wakes up and sees the kid. His name is Bobby Spector. And he's asking, why is the sheet on him? And the kid's saying, no time to talk. The guy, calling himself Brusque, took Mary and ran off with her. And he was out for 10 and 11 hours. And the tarp was covered over him because he was still under house arrest. The kid followed him into the park. And Ben says, "You read the paper and follow supervillains? Why aren't you in school?" And he says, "I watch things." Ooh, I watch things, all kinds of things. Ben opens the manhole and goes down and tells the kid to go away. He goes down into the tunnels. And he uses a flashlight Reed gave him. And next thing he sees is New Manhattan. And he goes in, and there's an entire underground city. And that just amazes Ben. And then someone comes to meet him, and he says, "Who are you, the Duke of New York?" And he reveals his name of Lamplighter Ford, leader of New Manhattan. And then they've got, these are citizens, they are outcasts. And he says he's not an immigrant or a tourist. And Lamplighter says he's there to find Broadman or Brusque. And he leads Ben. And he gives Ben the backstory. He said he was a brute, but he lived down there. He was a brute. They didn't care. And then he saw the poster, fell in love with the poster, and went to find her. And he started killing a bunch of people, and then took Mary up to the fort. That's a lot of bodies. And hello, Phantom Outsider. Okay, so he goes to the fort. He's at the end of Main Street with an underground waterfall. And it also is their light. And of course, Bobby is following. And Ben says, "How did you get in front of me?" And he says, while talking to lamplighter Ford. And Ben asks, where's it at? And he said his father used to be an archaeologist. He brought him one time before he disappeared. And Ben says, this don't sound like a very good father. And Ben doesn't say anything when he's asked, does Ben have a son? And then they find a fort. Bobby explains that Frick, Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan excavated the place when they were robber barons, and they wanted their own nation where they could be kings, rather than the lesser royalty that capitalism bestows. Ooh, little wokeness there. And he says there's an entrance. He could look for Mary. And Ben says, what are you going to do if you run into Brusque? And unfortunately, he says, it's got to be me. Door's too small, and if Ben breaks in, he may hear us. So Ben is the distraction. And of course, Brusque is saying the angel promised him that she would be his wife. And he was all set to smash her. And then the thing calls up his name. And he says, he's dead. And she says, you got the other way around. And Ben is taunting Billy. And he said, the light told me if I hit you on the head, you'd stop breathing. And Ben's saying, you should try getting a dog. And he's threatening to kill Mary. And Ben's saying, I thought you wanted a girlfriend. And now he's going, I hate you. And then Ben starts jumping up the side of the building. And then he comes up, and of course, Brusque says he's going to kill Ben. And Ben avoids him quite easily. The boy goes in and unties Mary, who asks, who are you? And she says, I'm Bobby. I'm here to free you. And he's telling her that Ben is his friend and that he's distracting while he frees her. She says, you're just a child. And he says, I'm old enough to free you. The fight continues. Ben, it doesn't look like they're taking... Ben looks like this time he's taking good care of him. And then he slips and falls. And Bobby tosses him a little white thing. And he says, the only surrender is you being dead and me being king of New Manhattan with Mary as my queen. And suddenly a glove appears. And it stops the fist. It stops his fist. And Ben clobbers him. And takes the little white light. And then he's saying, it's mine. But Ben says, nope, mine. And then he pounds Billy. And he wants to trade Mary for the light, and Ben says no. And the kid, or the Billy, pulls up a rebar, but Ben ties it around him. And he wants the light. And then all of a sudden, he starts screaming, and Bobby says, maybe you should give it to him. And all of a sudden, the heart bursts out of his chest, and there is Spooky Guy. So they see the Spooky Guy, and they're all shocked that it happened. And she asks, his heart exploding out of his chest? And Bobby says, no, the face. Kind of like an evil old man. So they start working to get themselves out of it. And then they bury Billy. And they say a sort of eulogy. And she kisses Ben. And then all of a sudden, the lamp flower, or whatever his name is with a crowd of people, and they're all set to keep Ben down there. And the thing is saying, who's going to make me stay? And they're ready to use whatever weapons, and he's ready to take chances. And they're also saying he may withstand the weapons, but what about the friends? And they want to keep him prisoners. And then all of a sudden, something happens to the old man. He gets a heart attack and dies. So the crowd panics. The three of them saying he was so filled with evil it killed him. And Bobby says, way convenient. So they decide to leave this underground chamber of horrors. All right, so yeah. Phantom says, this modern comic is lame compared to the 60-year-old stuff or over 55-year stuff that's usually reviewed. Just saying. I know. I just I could have gone with another couple issues, but it's Halloween, and what's wrong with a Halloween theme? Yeah, I decided to do it because of the kind of Halloween. Yep. All right. Okay, let's see if I can get this going better this time. We'll go back to the old stuff. In fact, I'm going to get a poll. I'm going to get a poll here. All right. Okay. So the poll's going to be thoughts. Spooky or ugh? Let's see how we do. All right. And let's see how I do with Kindle this time. Okay. Okay. All right, part 3 of the next best big thing. And Ben, look, in this one, Ben is in a boxing ring with Mary DeJour and Bobby. Notice they're wearing 4s. So Ben makes a hole at Central Park to let them out. And of course, the police are there waiting for him. All right. And then all of a sudden, the Fantastic Car comes and he gets into it, taking Mary and Bobby, and then they head back to the Baxter building. And then Bobby wants to go to the roof and use the telescope. And he tells Mr. Graham that he used to go to the Griffith Park Observatory when he was in LA, and he showed him how to use the telescopes. And he says, "Don't break anything." And then she says, You don't want a guy like me. I mean, look at my skin." And I guess they had Snoo. I mean, Snoo with a rock guy. I wonder about that. Start, what do you think? And then Ben wakes up and is going to find Bobby. And Bobby is still at the telescope. And then they go to the Brooklyn house and see the picture of Mary. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the champion of the universe, who remembers Ben and attacks Ben. Well, no, Ben attacks the champion, and yet more property damage. There's more property damage in this one than any James Bond movie I've seen. And Ben just doesn't listen to him and just commences to give him a whooping and runs away. And then the champion comes back and he says, "Another time I would have simply claimed victory, but this is not this is a duty, not joy." Ben continues clobbering him, and the champion decides to fight back. And now they're in a subway. And then he pulls out the little adamantium, little adamantium glove, and it forms up on him. And next thing you know, as they run to chase, they run to follow him, and they find a hole in the hole in the subway. And then champion clobbers him and hits him again. And he stares at the champion. Next thing you know, he clobbers him with the glove. And he hits the glove and nothing happens. Except Ben gets pushed down. And the fight continues. And continues. The fight of the century. And now the champion is starting to wear Ben down. In fact, he gives him a power slam. And Ben is wiped out. And And then the champion's saying, go, and he'll spare his life. Ben is saying, I just got started. He's ready to pound him again. And Mary uses the light vial and knocks him out. Wow. And then they take him back to the Baxter building. And Ben explains that they are representatives of alien races that are the last of their kind in the universe and now immortal. And the police just let him go this time. And now they put him in what Reed calls the interrogation chamber. And the champion says, to answer Ben's question about his beef, that he cheated. And Ben said he attacked him, but the champion says that Ben struck first, and which he did. And now Ben asks, why are you after me? And he says that he was charged with protecting someone that the matriarch agreed to shield. And Ben asks, you work for somebody? And the champion says, I need to eat. Ben asks, who is he protecting? And the champion says, free me or I'll slaughter you and everyone you know. And then if he says, okay, if I let you go, what if I agree to let you go? And then he says, I'll only slaughter you. He tries to escape. Mary says we should kill him and gives Ben. And Ben is just, And Bobby asks, why is he after Grimm? And he also detects something about the kid. He's not here for Ben, but is to save the universe. Strange. And they all look and say, they all just stare. And Ben's going to bed. Mary says she'll be there. And Bobby's going to talk to Bobby says he's going to talk to the champion. So Ben says it's okay. Woof, woof, woof. All right. Mary asks Bobby, what is he hoped to learn? And Bobby says, I merely seek to gain knowledge. More mystery of the kid. And the champion says, why are you here? And she says, I'm on a blind date, some blind date. And then they have a conversation. Bobby says, my father once told me that whenever I see anything, known or not, I should ask it the right question. And he asks, what is the burden of life without end? And he goes into a rant or talk. Life is change. It's always been thus, but we who are called the other elders never change. We live, striving, struggling, looking for meaning that no longer exists. It is when the unendurable meets the unending. And Mary is in another part of the Baxter building, and then Calixte appears. And she says, how is the meeting with Ben? And she says, surprising. And they ask, is he right for you? And Mary says, perfect. And she is being watched. And Ben is watching, but them both. And Reed asks Ben, what's going on because of all the property damage? And Ben says, I got two house guests. And Reed asks, do you need help? And Ben says, maybe if you got Galactus in your pocket. Ooh. All right. Let's see here. Let's do that. There are some good. I love the old stuff. Don't get me wrong, Phantom, but sometimes the only comic series I read is the Fantastic Four. I mean, I didn't like the movie, but I do like a lot of the stuff that's coming out. But that's me. FKHC says Champion of the Universe sounds like an early demo for Princes of the Universe. And Snort says woof, woof, woof. All right, let's see. Back to library. All right, we'll do that. Find the next one. Where is it? Come on. Right. And now we're up to part 4. All right, here we go. We're halfway through, Fanny. Ben is having another dream. This time, Spooky Guy has an axe and has been slicing Ben up. He says, Ben says, okay, Mott, you win, kill me, go on, but you can't let this happen. It's wrong. And Mott says he's going to kill Thing, and then the world and the universe will become the slave pen of his master. And then your friends, your family, your loved ones will suffer and then lay down their lives because you are unable to be a man. And he uses the axe. And then all of a sudden, Alicia wakes up from a dream. She's in a different place. And she says, she hears a sound. She goes toward the sound. Look, you're blind. You don't go after a sound. And this creature says her soul must be lost to him. He must be mine, so she must end. And Alicia asks, Alejandro, is that you? And he says, yes, it is. And goes after Alicia. Ben wakes up. And Mary asks Ben, what's going on? And he's pretty much, he worked with the team. He did the lifting. Reed made the plan. Susie found the back door, and the torch blazed the trail. And she says that he defeated Brusque. And Ben says it's only been dumb luck, and he's worried about Alicia. And she says, you brought us this far. You don't have to be the strongest or most powerful, and you win in the end. And she is saying that she's his girlfriend and sees her fine. And then all of a sudden, Ben sees the Silver Surfer. Wow, lots of guests in this series. He comes in, and Ben wants to show the surfer something, and Mary says, you're more beautiful than anyone has ever been able to describe. And he looks at her. And there's the champion. And Bobby says, I heard about you. You fought Galactus with the FF and a big dude called Uatu. And the surfer says, that's not uncommon. The Watcher's proper name is not common knowledge. And of course, he's saying he wants to kill everybody in that room if he's free. He's amazed that Ben captured the champion, and the champion says, "Free me or die." And Bobby was trying to find out how he was at the apartment. And the champion says that even with his lineage, he couldn't suspect the power of his kind. Ben is wondering what's going on. And the surfer's got a crush on her. She wants to kill him first. And they figured the belt was a transporter. And then he's going to take the elder to a place where he's going to be distracted. Ben asks for the transporter, and he gets it. Ben says, I doubt anything Reed had could explain to use this. And she says, why'd you keep it? And Bobby says, if he still had it, he can come back. And then they have breakfast. And Ben saying, you're attacking that breakfast like it was her last meal. And she says, in my job, you never eat very much and nothing that has any taste, kind of living off air. Mr. Curious over there, Curious George, or Bobby, wants to take a look at the belt. And even though Ben warns him to not push any buttons, Bobby says, models and dancers don't eat. And she says, you're either perfect or nothing at all. And he says, a 10-year-old Zen psychologist, perfection only exists in ideals such as lifetime, distant soul, and death. And Bobby says, death is like a negative ideal. And the belt starts glowing. And they disappear. They are all over. They're going into a distortion zone. And then they appear in a building. And it happens to be on the moon. So they are in the home on the blue area of the moon. And Ben is Marvel. They've been there before, so I'm surprised he's not sure. And then they go do something stupid like explore. And what do they run into? Robots. That's immediately start attacking. Stop. You are the enemy, therefore must be destroyed. Bobby says, we've never been here before. And he says, I am Robot 917043, designed for the final war, and I must destroy death to death. And so Ben clobbers the robot, which doesn't matter. And the robot starts slicing through his hide. Ben is fighting this robot and not doing too well because it just keeps slicing him up, even going through the rocky hide. But he finally clobbers the robot. Sort of. It keeps coming back. And then it stops just as he was ready to get clobbered. Or sliced in various ugly ways. It ran out of juice. They decide to get out of Dodge. They go deeper in, and he passes out. And she asks, how does it feel? And he says, he got ran over by a tank, and now the bugs are biting me good. He passes out. And then all of a sudden, Bobby brings something. It's sort of food. And she thinks it's poison. And Bobby says, it looks like it got a lot of signs, but then it was said it was food, and he ate some. Ben tried it and he gets back to normal. And Bobby says, we can use something to get home, but Ben's saying, nope. And Ben saying there's a bunch of robots, and with an army that big, they can control the earth. And then they are waiting. He's telling them to get out of there and get in touch with Reed. Bobby, of course, like a little bozo, is staying with Ben. And then all of a sudden, 3 other bad guys come out of nowhere. Somebody called the Faceless One, which I don't know. Of course, we know Terex the Tamer and some guy known as Berserker. And they're going to... He's ready for fighting. The robots come out of nowhere, and then the three stooges head toward Ben. Meanwhile, on Earth, Alicia flips this Alejandro guy. She asks, Alejandro, is it you? He says it is and it isn't, and tries to attack Alicia. She bites him. And then she keeps defending herself, and then all of a sudden there's light that she can see. And she passes out. All right. Let's see what's out there. Okay. There's also Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel Team Up. If you're not just doing theme FF books, there's Marvel Team Up 41 to 41, 44 with Spidey, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Moondragon. They all appear in the past during the Salem witch trials. And yeah, this is member berries. Thing fought the champion. Yeah, I remember that one. Boy, he got clobbered, so to speak. The Silver Surfer, yep. And Surfer has a cross, but everybody must like the new character. And the writer forgot that Surfer still had Shalabal and Mantis. And the blue area of the moon is where the Kree Skull War started. Yep, that too. All right, we're only 2 away. We can do this. Let's see. Back to the library. Okay. All right. Part 5. That looks like a wrestling belt that he's got. And then Ben, Bobby, and Mary DeJuris are in the Watcher's home. And Bobby asks, "Are we going to fight?" Ben says, "No, we run." Or he tells them to run. And Berserker says, "Go after his friends." And they keep fighting Ben. Or the Berserker fights Ben as Terax and this faceless one chase after Bobby and Mary. Bobby goes into another room. Terax says, "When you're my slave, I'll teach you pleasures that no creature of your species has ever known and the pain you will endure." Ben is still fighting this Berserker character. And not doing a good job. But he pulls out the glove. And the glove knocks this Berserker guy out. And Ben is rising. And he really did a good job of taking out the Berserker. But then he passes out. Bobby ends up in a garden with a wound. And Bobby asks this faceless one, what does he want? And the creature says, "My master defeated the matriarch, and now he commands your death." And then a spider comes out and attacks. And he kills the spider. And more spiders come out. And now they overwhelm him, and he is trapped calling for help. And Terex calls her a bad name. She looks around and he tries again. And the creature, and Mary says, I was going to allow you to live a bit longer, maybe a millennium or so. Woo! Wow, strong talk for this lady. More to her than meets the eye. And she said, he says, you can harm me. And she pulls out a dagger given to her by a man in a place called Greenwich Village. You know who that is? And it tickles, and then the blade splits into 1,000 tendrils that pierces every part of the body. And he's saying, who? And Dr. Strange gave her the dagger. Ooh. Who is this lady? Ben starts to... They ask if Ben's dead. Bobby says no. Or Bobby asks, and Mary says no, and she says, it's just a feeling I get when someone passes. And then Ben wakes up. And Ben asks what happened to the berserker guy. They say he's deceased, and he wants to tie him up. And Bobby asks, why you want to tie him up? And they say he cannot die. They mentioned what happened to the other ones. And Bobby watched them eating and ran. And Mary said that she stopped running and appealed to Terex's better nature, and he had decided to leave her alone. Bobby looks for more, or Bobby's going to get more cable, but he asks, isn't it a little inhumane to tie him up if he's going to resurrect? And Ben is pretty much saying, let's get out of here. And Bobby's holding a ball. And Bobby's saying it's an advisor. It could tell you anything, how to bake a cake or how to erase a black hole. And Ben is getting ready to touch it. And then all of a sudden, who appears? Doom. And Ben can say, really? And Mary runs. And Bobby is just shocked. Ben wants to know what's going on. And of course, Doom is not going to tell him. He doesn't have any designs. Ben says he's the kind of maniac who wants to take possession of the earth over a Labor Day barbecue. And Bobby says he's got bigger plans. And Doom is saying, what are you? And he just says, I'm from Brooklyn. And Doom says he doesn't know. And Ben or Doom says, I don't care what you believe. And that gets Ben's anger. So he puts on the glove, the staff, and changes the ball into a helmet. Ooh, but he is looking like he's going to go after Doom. So, but Dr. Doom raises his hands. The Phantom says, well, that's an unexpected eye roll. And then he goes into the backstory about his mother selling his soul to Mephisto, her soul being sent to hell, and they were going to, he and Doctor Strange were going to fight Mephisto to save his mother, and evidently, because she refused to be brought back to life, but then she was released, and Death decided to take her mother. So Doom is getting ready to go into the dimension of death, because he's got an army of death-like robotic warriors to attack and destroy the dimension, an army that Death can't control or blackmail. And Ben is saying, that's where you're wrong. If a madman took over for Death, then there wouldn't be anybody safe in the universe. And then the Berserker staff works for Ben, and the thing hits him with the vibranium glove. And then the fight between Ben and Doom goes on. And Ben, or Doom, says he's given his consciousness to 12 billion robots, androids, and synthezoids, and that they will go and conquer Death. Ben looks and he says, no, we'll go and we'll go together. And he lets Doom rest. And then all of a sudden, Ben sees that Bobby looks different. And Bobby says, if you help Doom, your soul will be sundered. And he says that the master of the Blue Ray might be his father or a relative, and that's why he could see the fate. And Ben says, a watcher for a father. And he's saying, you got to stop Doom. And he says, I ain't no Hulk or Thor or Silver Surfer. I'm just a man who gets things wrong more than right. This time I got to take it. And he says, what if there's a better way? And he's asking, where was she? And she says, I couldn't let Doom see me. And then she reveals she changes to Calixte, and then Alejandro, and then becomes Death, and saying that she is in love with the Thing, and to rule the empire of Death with me. Oh boy. Oh boy. I thought Death was in love with Thanos. All right. You're not going to get me, FKHC. Oh, and Pop Culture Breakdown is live. And Phantom says, see, Doom fighting for his mom's soul, old school. But come on, Doom, tell everyone the news writer story, how to gain more power. You had to unalive the girl. You loved Valeria and incorporated her soul into your armor. Really nice story. Plus, you named Reed and Sue's daughter after the girl you unalived for power. Yep. Oh, and in one word for Doom, wait till you see what happens to Valeria. All right. And now the conclusion. Oh, that's a nice cover. Axe, both Doom and Ben in chains. And then now Mary has approved. Mary has revealed herself to be Death. And who says that Alicia is safe. And she says, what do you care? She loves him and I love you for who and what you are. Do you prefer her to me? And Ben says, I prefer to Hulk to you. And she says that he must give himself willingly to him. And she's doing all the offering and stuff like that. And Ben offers himself to let Alicia go. And Death says Doom is her prisoner and she's going to remain her hostage. She says, give up the love of the light, give up your love of life, and then she will be free. And Bobby asks what to do. And Ben said, the thing says, oh, did I? Dang it. I did not share it. There you go. So now she's disappearing to her realm. Ben's saying, let's get ready for war. And then they go to the realm of death, where all the bodies are. Alicia is walking and glowing. And there's a little girl screaming, asking for help. And Alicia says that she's... And the little girl saying she's warm. I'll read that one in a moment. And the little girl says, I'm dead. But Ben, or Alicia says, I see you. But then she realizes she can see. And the little girl says, I'm not alive, only a memory. And death is cold, but you are warm and bright. And Alicia asks, how can I see you? And it's possible she sees with the living heart. And she reveals that Lady Death is in a tower and the creature is going after the little girl. And Alicia decides she's going to defend the little girl. And Alicia's badass when she wants to be. And she defeats the samurai and chases it away. And Ben and them are back in the Watcher's room. And they're trying to find Alicia. He puts on the helmet, and then he sees all the cosmic entities, celestials, eternity, some other ones I've forgotten, chaos and order, and death. And they see all things that have gone back. Hulk, Thor, Surfer, the Champion, and Agatha, and Alicia. Alicia says, my love. Ben says, where are you? And Alicia says, I've been taken by death, but I'm not dead, and calls and says he looks beautiful. And Ben is shocked that he could see her. And she leads Alicia. And Death says, a mere mortal means less than a fish. Ben shall die again and again forever. I will make him eat his own flesh. And Alicia comes in. Death says, who dares? And Alicia clobbers Death, and she says, the living dares. Wow. Thanks, Fanti. The Living Tribunal. And Bobby is saying that there's an aura around her. And Alicia, Ben's saying she's trying to kill Alicia, but Alicia is fighting back. That the living may have power there. And Alicia's holding her own. And she says anything is possible. Spend one day being blind and you know it. And Bobby says to the thing, they can control the robots. He touches things and leads them into combat. And they go into the land of death. And of course, Mott is there leading a bunch of the deceased. And then there are the robots. And thing goes attack. Mott goes attack. And the battle goes on. Robot versus skeleton. Bobby versus skeleton. Skeleton versus robots. Ben versus Mott. The Mott gets the axe in. Ben punches Mott with the vibranium glove. Mott falls, and he is deceased. And then they see a prison. The thing knocks open the door, and there is Doom. Ben says, how come you're bad? You look bad. And it's only been a couple of hours. Ben says Doom says it's been centuries of torture. Ben frees Doom, and he said they kept him alive to suffer. And a cloaked person says, stand up and be a man. And Doom says, who are you? And he realizes that his mother. And she reveals herself. And Ben says, your army follows me now. Help her save Alicia, and she'll help with the mom. Let's see. Okay. And his mother tells him how to go, and Doom and his mother will fight back. So they go, and another monster comes threatening Ben, and he fights, and it looks like a draw. And he says, you can't hurt me with violence. And it looks like it's going to be a draw. It looks like Ben may. And then he glows. And then so he stops fighting, and because the helmet says he only opposes aggressors, and that Ben doesn't want to fight, just wants his girlfriend back. And there's Death, who annihilates the creature. And then she gets clobbered by Alicia. And Ben, or Doom, and the mother come out of nowhere, and they start heading back. Ben asks Alicia to take him back, and they agree. They agree that they'll take each other back. And Doom asks his mother to go with her, and she says she's dead, he's alive, and then he goes back by himself. Alicia becomes blind, but will never forget what she's seen. And the girl came out and is alive. Her name is Joshabed, and Little Watcher takes him away. And then they go back to the Baxter building. He puts the trophies into a box, and she tells Ben she forgives him. And he says, maybe you need a better boyfriend. She says, will you be better? He says, yes. Will you join an anger management group? He says, yes. And she says, and will you promise to follow me to hell if I ever get taken there? He says, yes. It's the easy part. And there's Calixte waving at Ben. The end. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. The Realm of Death, also known as Ohio. That's a good one. Let me see what the meme is. All right. I like that one. Animaniacs. All is strange and vague. Are we dead? Or is this Ohio? It's Ohio. No, definitely Camden, New Jersey. FKHC says, I raised you Nebraska. This will be A Dream Like Dallas, Season 9. Newark, the land of death is definitely in New Jersey. Nebraska is likely just boredom. An aura around her, aka plot armor. Cats versus dogs. Cats versus dogs living together, mass hysteria. Yeah, the artwork could have been better. Bland and lifeless compared to the originals we did. Sandra says talent and the desire to excel are not present in most modern productions. With as terrible a person as they've made Doom's mom lately, and as much of a mama's boy they've made Doom lately, it's only a matter of time will Doom will be running an old motel and wearing a wig and dress. Snort says Snuffles. If you were not a longtime fan, I don't think this modern comic would convince potential new readers, consumers to purchase it. Yeah. That's why so many past comics are what collectors are looking for. This newer stuff, bleh. And DC has the problem just as much as Marvel. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I do like what Ryan North, and I did like what Dan Slott did. But I'm a Fantastic Four. If the art's good and the stories are decent, I like him. But I will continue to do old school Fantastic Four reviews. So don't worry. We will continue to do the old stuff. All right. But I thought that this was a spooky enough story that we could try it for Halloween. Now, oh, wow. Let's see what the poll says. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I ended the poll. 75% went ugh. 25% said spooky. Yeah. Well, I tried. All right, what's another one? I like that one. I like it. Dogs and cats living together. The goddess says, I have been seeing too many comic sellers doing away with the new stuff unless it's a pre-sale. They are going back issues again. We don't have a comic bookstore around here anywhere close to me. And I really don't like going a long distance for comics. So, all right. So, now that we've gotten done with that, the cat was Ian and the dog Mosey, a mini Aussie. Oh, they're cute. All right, let's get to show notes.
It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. Yeah, with Mr. Raven and Sandra too. It's time for show notes. We're bringing it on. It's time for show notes. You've all been warned. It's time for show notes.
All right. I'm bringing up I am bringing up. Okay. Snorter Poopus Cube Burst says, take care, every human, dolphin, doggo, Dalek, ferret, eagle, hedgehog, and red wolf. TM, a wholly owned subsidiary of the dolphinwars.com. Okay, and the red wolf is a handsome creature brought to you courtesy of Snorter Poopus Cubur. Oh man, he is a handsome creature. I'd ask Trike, but Trike is sleeping. That is one handsome critter. I don't think he'd live with cats. All right. So, we've got this Saturday, King Dolphin TV's 4-year anniversary. We will party like nothing before. I mean, come on, 4 years doesn't come every year. So we will have fun, jokes, hedgehogs, bears, maybe fets, trikes, a whole bunch of fun to be held on the 18th. On the 20th, yes, a anniversary. All right. On the 22nd, we will have Radio King Dolphin TV, the Not Ready for Pod Time Players, doing If Wishes Were Fishes. Look forward to that. On the 29th, we will be doing, in 2 hours, we will be celebrating King Dolphin's birthday and Trike's birthday. Or we may do Trike's birthday. Trike's birthday is a week before mine, so we may do Trike's birthday on the 25th. We'll see what's going to happen. And Sandra says, there's the link if you're going to do a pod raid at Pop Culture Breakdown. So please do a pod raid at Pop Culture Breakdown. November. On the 5th, we'll do a real Fantastic Four review. On the 8th, we will travel the world King Dolphin style. On the 12th will be our special Veterans Day program. I am trying to do a very, very special interview with a World War II veteran. I am working on it, but I'm trying not to jinx it. We may have to try some different formats. On the 19th, we will do Radio King Dolphin TV Endgame. And on the 26th, we will do our Thanksgiving Eve show. Of course, Just Cuz will be every Saturday in November. So that is show notes. And Legata says, party like it's $29.99. And Sandra again says, do a pod raid at Pop Culture Breakdown. All right, so let me say goodnight to everybody. We had Phantom Outsider, who didn't think too much of this spooky story. There were probably some spookier ones, but it's hard to get online copies. We had Crouching Tyler, Hidden Swift, also known as Matt G. And then my lifeguards. We had Sandra, the producer, Trike the dog. We had Legata's Legion Eye. We had FKHC 2005. And to wrap it all up in a nice little bow before he crunches things, the hardest working bear on the internet. You know him, you love him, you're scared of him. Snort a poopas, Cuber. Dot screen. Hashtag roar. You have a good night, Snort, and everybody else, you have a great evening. Whoa. All right. And thank you all for being here. We will see you Saturday for our 4th anniversary. And I love you all. We'll see you on Saturday.